Welcome to my presentation about my internship at Barker College Archives. Barker College was founded by Reverend Henry Plume in 1890 at Currajong in the Blue Mountains. Plume moved the college to Hornsby in 1896. Established as an Anglican school, Barker College came under direct administration of the Anglican Archdiocese of Sydney in 1919. More than 200 Barker graduates, known as the Old Boys by later staff and students, answered the call to arms in the two world wars, and 92 sacrificed their lives in the wars. Headmaster Carter once promised that the school will never forget the graduates for their personal sacrifices for the country, and this promise continues in many ways. Physically, the commemoration of the fallen Old Boys is indicated in memorial plaques, honor rolls, sculptures, and the dedication of entire building structures on campus, such as the chapel, oval, and the junior school. In terms of intangible culture, subsequent Barker students are constantly inspired and encouraged to follow the examples of the earlier students, to keep challenging one's athletic and intellectual abilities, and to practice and fulfill self-sacrifice, Christian love, and contribution to the society. The names of the 92 fallen Old Boys were read in each liturgical service at the War Memorial Chapel, and the Barker College Cadet Unit continues to train students with military discipline. Students directly participate in local war commemoration events on Anzac Day and Remembrance Day by being guards of honor, thus making a direct connection with the Old Boys who were active in the cadet unit and who were later enlisted. My tasks as an intern contained several categories, including the primary task of heritage interpretation for a War Memorial Trail app, secondary tasks of collection conservation and exhibition development, and other stakeholder engagement tasks such as facilitating guided tours and writing administrative briefings. All of these projects aim to present the history of Barker and its past students in ways that are relatable to and inspirational for the students, current and future. I am pleased to have added my personal perspectives to the trail app and the exhibition. Most notably, I discussed the historical context of the launching of the memorial structures with reference to my own knowledge of Australian political history, such as the conscription referenda, to create more depth and encourage students' diverse researches and debates on the past and current values of the stops on the trail. And I referenced classical and folk music to provide emotive interpretation for the stops, to help students visualize, emphasize, and construct the meanings of the stops in their unique ways. For example, Waltzing Matilda was provided for the memorial pots to commemorate the fallen Old Boys' struggles for liberty. I will discuss the first three tasks in more detail. First of all, I created contents for a War Memorial Heritage Trail app to enhance the school's culture and to help students appreciate the school's history further. My target audience is Year 9 students and history teachers. The heritage sites or stops to be interpreted in this project are 10 in total, including objects and places. The former includes the original World War I honor roll, war trophies such as German machine gun, and information panels about old boys who participated in the wars, while the latter consists of memorial steps, chapel, oval, grandstand, junior school, and the off-campus Hornsby War Memorial. I examined multiple sources of information in my research to present a multivocal interpretation of the heritages, largely based on the perspectives of the people who participated directly in the events related to the heritage. One major challenge is the fact that Barker's archival record-keeping was less systematic before the archives was established in 1964. For example, there is a lack of written records of Headmaster Leslie's speech notes, compared to plenty of speech notes of Headmaster Carter. To overcome this issue, I researched more broadly about alternative sources, such as Braga's memoir about Leslie's tenure, and the school magazine's coverage of the official opening of the chapel in 1957 to reconstruct the roles of Leslie. I also cross-examined these sources and learnt more about how I can mediate the biases of each source due to the writer's contrasting opinions on political, social, or personal matters. I developed a particular interest in examining the evolution of events and people, and how they were interpreted in historical sources. My questions include how old boys who were killed in the wars were recorded in the obituaries of the college, how headmaster William Carter associated his current students with the fallen old boys, emphasizing their common struggles of physical and intellectual excellence and personal sacrifice, and how heritage identities were evolving in the planning, funding, and construction of a building structure, such as the War Memorial Chapel, which was only designated as a war memorial in the later period of its planning. Their answers were mostly provided in the app's additional information section. Here is a map of the War Memorial Trail, with the stops highlighted in orange. I presented the history of each stop of the trail in sections, including the key body and additional information. The key body contains an introductory paragraph with facts, followed by a question and a guide to imagination. These form the essential parts of a stop that must be taught in a Year 9 history class, whether the stop forms a general walk for students who may not be deeply interested in history, or if it is one of a few stops that the teacher would like to focus on with students who are more engaged. My consideration questions challenge the students to think about the human experiences and multiple perspectives of past events, and heritage's ability to be constantly debated, negotiated, and reshaped by their stakeholders. These are reinforced by the imagination narratives, which frequently aim to put the students in someone else's shoes, be it a school counselor or an Old Barker Uni member, in arguing the case for the construction of a war memorial building, or a classmate of a head prefect who was deeply traumatized by the latter's loss of life. These are to trigger effective engagements with the stops. The additional information section contains links to images, music, and online sources, which facilitate interested students to further appreciate the stops. These types of information encourage students' different modes of learning, and takes into account the need to read detailed texts about biographies and events, the visual need to see historical images and recreate heritage in one's own mind, and the audiological need to listen to music that echoes the emotions of the stop. Secondly, my object conservation tasks equip me with new knowledge of the physical storage and cataloging of collections, including the use of various types of archival boxes, filling, buffering, and insulating materials, acidity monitoring, mold treatment, and macro-environmental control, such as managing relative humidity of the entire storage room. In addition to object conservation per se, I recorded objects' conditions through written reports and photographs, which were stored in the archive's collection management database. Some personal items that originally belonged to the fallen old boys, such as honorary medals, were selected for display in the app. A major obstacle in the effective management of relative humidity is excessive rainfall on several days of my internship. We borrowed an extra dehumidifier from the school's maintenance team and cleared the water from all of the machines more frequently than the drier days, to maintain control of the storage humidity level. Though this excessive humidity was temporary, it can be beneficial for the archives to consider the long-term trend of wetter climates and reassess the need to install additional dehumidifiers as backup, or to take other measures in accordance with the National Archives of Australia storage standards. Thirdly, building on the two tasks mentioned earlier, I developed a mini display about the religious life of Barker students at the War Memorial Chapel, choosing 6 liturgical objects. Some of them have the old boys' names inscribed. My narrative was based on the imagination that the viewer became an Anglican minister at the chapel, and is structured with a main introductory paragraph and 3 labels of object descriptions. The explanatory texts surrounded by the objects face the viewer in a similar way as they are arranged on an Anglican communion table. A major difficulty in designing the layout is the limitation of the size of the display cabinet. Given the slope of the display pedestal, I chose to place the lectern, which is the tallest object in the exhibition, at the front where the pedestal is the lowest. This arrangement inevitably compromises the utilization of the space behind the lectern, which is occupied by the communion covers. Yet this is necessary in order not to damage the top of the display cabinet and jeopardize the microenvironment of the exhibit. Another knowledge I gained from this task is to be attentive to details and remain calm when cutting and combining paper with foam board, in order to create pleasant object labels. Here is a relationship chart for my 3 main tasks for the internship. This internship provides me valuable insights into the archives industry. Factors that are consistent with new museology and our broader academic learning include the archivist needs to communicate with stakeholders to make the nature, roles, and potentials of the archives known, and to understand the evolving needs of the stakeholders in a timely way to provide the most suitable interpretations and archival support. Many GLAM sector professionals, including my supervisor, learned a large part of their work skills on the job. This leaves more room for Australian universities to improve their courses, to design units on practical museum and heritage operations and maintenance, and to share resources with science faculties to facilitate conservation units. The nature of archivists' works compared to librarians, museum and gallery specialists is unique. Archival work poses questions about objects and cataloguing that are more faceted and nuanced than library work. Archival support systems require more logic and rational thought than artistic creativity, which can make an archivist more similar to a museum or gallery's collection manager, though the archivist may also curate exhibits and organize face-to-face educational programs with the community. Here are some photographs of me during the internship. And here is a question for discussion. Thank you for your attention.